Alright, first off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, Hashem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers in highways and byways pushing this word now, sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps. Shalom. This is the brother Aaron from the Jamaica camp coming to another quick lesson. And this lesson is based on this picture that you're seeing here. Right, it says security guard shocked to find 3 of his 4 kids are jackets. Right, and out here in Jamaica, when they say that a man has a jacket, it means that the child isn't his. There's a child that he may have raised a child or children who the woman told him was his, but they aren't. Right, so they call it a jacket. Right. So imagine this here, right here, in the midst of this whole stop the violence against women protests, women dying due to domestic violence, among other things. And, people don't realize that it's things like these, that cause a man to kill a woman, based on the spirit of jealousy, right? That is mentioned in the book of Proverbs. Right now, I'm in a school group, and they post things like this from time to time, and I usually just listen to. I don't speak in that group. I don't want to say I don't speak much, because really I say little to nothing in the group, but I still, when things like this get posted, they're a very vocal group. So I like to hear their judgment or hear their thoughts on various things, and of late, it has been helping me to get topics to do lessons on. So let's just focus on some of the arguments that they spoke of, or that they speak of, and then let's see how that ties in with the scripture. So first, one of the arguments that they brought up was the fact that if this man find out that these children aren't his, seeing that he find out, that it shouldn't stop him from deciding to that shouldn't stop him from still raising them as his own, and if he's truly a mature person, then he would stay and raise them, because the fact that they're actually the fact that if he didn't know, he would still consider them his own and still raise them, then he should be mature, and still raise them up to to whether 18 or or still love them and all of that. Right. So and one of the word that was used is if they're a mature person. Now, how is it that if a man decides that he should he doesn't want to raise these children, is he immature? How is it that they're saying that the children are innocent, so you shouldn't treat them bad, or cast them aside or whatever because of the mother's sin. And in a case like this, it's good to just walk away, and that they still wouldn't give him the right to even hurt the woman, right? But what people don't understand is that, especially as it pertains to the scriptures, a man's seed, declares is how he actually builds his house. He's carry on his father's name, his forefather's name, and it's the building of a house. So that's his heritage, that's his life. There's an article that I read in a lesson a while back, about women in ancient Israel, and the topic of polygamy came up, and it's saying that, look, one of the main reasons why men were allowed to have more than one wife, but the wife was not allowed to have more than one husband, outside of the fact that it's nasty, you pollute your bodies and so forth. It would prevent the transference of inheritance, right? So a man whose sons, or if a woman should bear a son that is that belongs to another man, that's another man's, and give that son the inheritance, right? That's the inheritance being transferred from one house to the next. And even though it might not be known at the time or not be known at all, it's still a transference of resources. Your family, is a business. You work together to accumulate resources. So you being another man's wife, or a female being a man's wife, it's towards his household. The argument came up again, Slakia for speaking on, but we'll bring out the precepts, but it's just to highlight, it's somewhat of a commentary. You know, if it's a case that she's a part of that man, she's that man's wife, he actually owns her, because that's what they're saying, that no woman owns no man and no man owns no woman. And that is why the scripture says that he that begetteth a wife begetteth a possession, right? Because she is there to aid him, right, in building his household. The key word is aid. So she helps him to, she cooks his food, all that. He goes out, he works and whatever, and they work together. She may have a certain skill, whether it be making garments or whatever, it's bringing in wealth. Then she bears him children. The children becomes a part of the business, and they work together as a team, and everything works. What man being the head, the building of that household, and the inheritance pass on from those children. So if him deciding that, look, I don't want to continue with building up these children which aren't mine, then nothing is wrong with that. And according to the scripture, that woman should be put to death. So all who say he doesn't own her and doesn't give the right to kill him or kill her, the scriptures disagree, because the price for adultery, or the penalty for adultery is death. So she, both her and the man that slept with her, and he got that, the true father of the child, should be put to death. That's the judgment of the scriptures, right? So let me just read this precept real quickly, right? This is Ecclesiasticus, or the book of Sirach 23, and I'll start at verse 18, right? Ecclesiasticus 23 verse 18. It says, a man that breaketh wedlock, saying thus in his heart, who seeth me? I am compassed about with darkness, the walls cover me, and nobody seeth me. What need I to fear? The Most High will not remember my sins. Such a man only fear the eyes of men, and know it not that the eyes of the Lord are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, beholding all the ways of men, and considering the most secret parts. Right? So this is a man that breaketh wedlock. So whosoever, the true father of those children are, in a case like this, he broke wedlock, and the Most High actually see this evil, and there's a judgment for that. Verse 20 says, he knew all things ere ever they were created, so also after they were perfected he looked upon them all. This man shall be punished in the streets of the city, and where he suspected not, he shall be taken. Because in the law it says the adulterer and the adulteress shall both be put to death, right? So because this is an act of adultery, so it reads, this is the judgment in regards to a man that breaketh wedlock. And then it moves on to the woman. Verse 22 says, thus shall it go also with the wife that leaveth her husband, and bringeth in an heir by another. So just as how the man that breaketh wedlock shall be punished in the streets of the city, and where he suspected not he shall be taken, it's the same thing for the woman. She shall be punished in the street, and where she suspected not she shall be taken. Read verse 22 again. It says, thus shall it go also with the wife that leaveth her husband, and bringeth in an heir by another. Right? Verse 23, for first she had disobeyed the law of the Most High, which is what, thou shalt not commit adultery, right? And secondly, she had trespassed against her own husband by giving him a jacket. That is her trespassing against her husband, right? That is her messing up the man's lineage and his household, and his whole family line. That's you messing with a man's life. And thirdly, she had played the whore in adultery and brought children by another man. She shall be brought out into the congregation, and inquisition shall be made of her children. Her children shall not take root, and her branches shall not bring forth no fruit. She shall leave her memory to be cursed, and her reproach shall not be blotted out. Should be made an example of to women as to what not to do, and the man shall be made an example of what not to do. But this section that I'm reading is onto the is as it pertains to the woman. So her memory shall be cursed, and her reproach shall not be blotted out. It says, and they that remain shall know that there is nothing better than the fear of the Lord, and that there is nothing sweeter than to take heed unto the commandments of the Lord, because there's where it says, thou shalt not commit adultery. And that is the reason why these things is happening in this society, because there's no fear of the Most High, or no consideration of his laws or his commandments, right? It is great glory to follow Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, and to be received of him is long life. So if you know that shows that this place is out of work. So no, one of the guys was saying that if it was him, while he will not speak with the mother, he will actually he don't think he would leave the children. And in a society like this, we have mercy, we are under grace. So if it's a case that is in this society, and he finds out that happened to him, and he chose to walk that part of saying, I don't want to deal with the mother, but I will still, based on the bond that I get with these children or whatever, it's totally fine. Or not even say it's fine, but I'm willing to continue this relationship or this bond, but just know that they aren't mine, but that bond is still there. Then fine, that's totally fine, because guess what? That's his choice. He doesn't sin, right? He didn't sin. However, at the end of the day, as I said, in this day and age, that's a choice that he will have to make. But in the ancient world, if we were in the land, if he decided that he didn't want, he would not be obligated to take care of them, for one, and for two, the woman would be put to death. And if the man is found as well, but that the actual father, he would also be put to death. And then the next argument, that well, before I actually bring out that point, right? Let's see how important the continuing of a lineage is to ancient Israel, and we're going to use an example from our forefather Abraham. Now this is Genesis 21 verse 9. It says, Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which born she had born unto Abraham mocking. So Abraham had Ishmael, and Ishmael's mother was Hagar. And because Sarah could not have children or whatever, and Hagar brought forth Ishmael, is Sarah being the free woman, and Hagar being her handmaid, and bringing forth her ear unto Abraham, his actual seed, right? That child was mocking Sarah. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. Now, if you know about the history and know the promise was made unto Isaac, and even the Most High told Abraham that, look, in Isaac shall thy seed call, and the promise will be fulfilled in Isaac, right? So even though Ishmael came of his loins, as it pertains to the building of Abraham's household, and the passing on of the promise and the heritage and the inheritance, all of that was ordained of the Most High to be passed on to Isaac. The continuation of his lineage and the building of the house was that responsibility, and that inheritance was passed on to Isaac, right? But bear in mind that Ishmael was Abraham's son, right? So let's see what was the verdict in the end. Verse 12 said, and the Most High said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman. In all that Sarah had said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called. So the heir that would supposed to bring the bring forth the promise and the inheritance, it would be of both the free parents, right? Not of Agar, who was a bondwoman, but Sarah being free, Abraham being free, and them having a son together. That the son that both Abraham and Sarah had together, that would be the one that would bring forth the promise. So that is what the Most High told Abraham right here, right? It's verse 30 says, and also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. So the Lord was saying, hey, you know what? I'm still going to take care of him. Verse 14 is the point. It says, and Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Agar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. So even though Isaac was his blood son, not Isaac, Ishmael was his blood, what was his son, which came from his line, because the whole building of the household and the plan of the Most High was to use Isaac. He sent her away with bread and a bottle of water. So how much more, a man receiving a jacket that's not going to build up, which is not of his seed, and is not in that sense, will not carry on the name of his household, or the building of his family. How much more that, with Ishmael being Abraham's son, and him send him away because guess what, that was not a part of the plan in the building of the house. However, Isaac was. So him send her away with bread and a bottle of water. And guess what, even the Most High punished even Agar, because at one point in the wilderness, the bread and the water ran out, and they were she basically was about to faint, and she was going to leave the child, and the Most High sent an angel, to say, look, go down there, there's a well and whatever, and as he told Abraham, he would make Ishmael strong. But this goes to show how important the building of a household is. That was not Ishmael's lot. Therefore, the Most High said, send him away, and Abraham sent them away with bread and a bottle of water. So it's a serious thing. And that is something, that is why, when adultery is such a serious sin, that the penalty is death, because it can it cause confusion in more ways than one, both from a corrupt in the flesh and a bodily standpoint, and even the messing up and the confusion of households. Right? Now, the next thing that was mentioned was the fact that you have cases where men go out there and they have kids outside of the relationship. So if it's a case, because this is what one of the guys saying, and he's saying that, look, so maybe this is just the tables being turned in a fair way, where in return the flip side of that is men receiving jacket, right? And some of these are Christian, mind you. But here's the thing: the scriptures does not condemn a man having more than one wife. But the scriptures condemn a woman having more than one husband, because of what? Adultery. So guess what? If a man decide that, if in this society, while it's frowned upon, in ancient Israel, if a man had more than one wife, and he impregnated a next woman, whether she's there or not, because that child is a part of his household, both women should actually work together, and which are the first or the second wife, which the first wife in this case would still, have to have respect unto that child, because it is the heir. Now you may say that, what, didn't you just read where Abraham sent away Ishmael? Yes, but it was towards the purpose of the Most High and the building of his household, and Ishmael was not chosen. But but in the case of even with Israel, there are guidelines, which I'm going to read very shortly. So nothing is wrong with a man having more than one wife, and impregnating more than one woman, as long as that woman don't belong to a next man, right? And the point that many brothers brought out, well, not brothers, but a few of the guys were saying that, look, in the case of in most cases, a man will even see a woman, meet her, find out that she may have even a 3-month-old baby or whatever, and decide that to still be with a woman, and even raise that child as his own. And once again, his resources, his money, if he decides that he wants to walk that route, in my eyes, he sinned not. Which, I don't think it's wise to build an next man house or whatever, but, you know, at the end of the day, if it's within your power and you can, that's not a problem, right? Because, that's up to you. And it's not like I say that, well, by right, we shouldn't have to even have stepfathers or all of that. If it's not a case where, there's widowhood, the father from the previous relationship there or whatever. But, you know, if it's a case that, a man decide to be a stepfather, based on the confusion of Babylon or whatever, it's if that's his choice, then it's fine. You know, it's totally fine. So you have men that actually do that, and you have cases where, some women, even if the man have a child outside of the relationship, in few cases, but it does happen, they would still take on the child and deal with the child good and everything, which is totally fine. But when the issue is this, right? In most cases, as it pertains to these jacket situations, when a man will actually see a woman and have sex with her and outside of his relationship and get her pregnant, he can go to his wife and say, hey, Stacy from down the block is is pregnant with my child, and yada yada yada. And at that moment, based on the system that we live in, she can then decide that, look, all right, you know what, fine, no, I'm not gonna deal with this, and they leave, right? And they have that option to leave. However, when it's a case that a woman is gets pregnant by another man and gives that child to a next man unknowingly, right? And later down the line, that man finds out in some way, shape, or form, like in this instance, the headline that I read in the beginning of this lesson, he did not have a choice. If once again, if through base we are under grace, if it's a case that he's with the woman and then she tells him that, and he decides that he wants to forgive her or he wants to stay in that relationship and still raise that child as his own, that at least the respect, to a certain degree, as wicked as all hell, but at least, he has the option of actually saying, you know what, all right, she told me, or I know that this is a situation, and I'm gonna stay in it. But if something happens down the road, don't come crying to me, the speaking, in general, don't come crying, because you made your choice. However, in most cases, these men don't have a choice. So why is it, a choice wasn't given to actually, say whether or not they're willing to stay, and then you're gonna say that, when they find out down the line, because they're already playing the role of a parent or a father or whatever, then if they get up and leave, then they're immature, or they're this, or they're casting children aside or whatever. You don't know if every time he looks at those children, he remembers the betrayal that was given, or it might be good for him based on this society. The best thing would probably be to leave, because if he keeps on seeing them and thinking about it, he may harm them, ill treat them, or even worse, kill them, and even kill the mother, or in some cases kill the mother and kill himself, or kill the mother and go to jail, or kill the mother and go on the run, or something. So with even the psychological trauma and things that will come with that, the best thing would probably even be to step away, right? But no, it's always towards the benefit of the woman and trying to justify the woman in her wrong. And that's the thing that's been irking me, as it pertains to violence against women and various other topics concerning it, because women aren't held accountable. It's just that they should get off scratch free with every bullshit that they do in the society. To even and it shows even the men hate themselves and men hate men, because once again, there's this dude that was in the group that was, in defense of this BS, and not realizing that he was trampling down his own self, right? Now, just gonna bring out two quick precepts in regards to to highlight the points that I mentioned earlier. This is Exodus chapter 21, and I'll start at verse 10, as it pertains to a man that already have a wife, that's a Hebrew man that has a damsel, a Hebrew damsel, as a wife. He says, but verse 10 says, if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and duty of marriage shall he not diminish. And that's the thing, right? So if a man wants to have more than one woman, as long as he can afford to maintain both women, right, As long as those women, prior did not belong to another man, then he sinned not. He sinned not. Right? Now, as it pertains to inheritance, as it pertains to, Israelite children, right? This is Deuteronomy chapter 21, and I'll start at verse 15. It says, if a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be that when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he hath, for he is the beginning of his strength, and the right of the firstborn is his. So that's another thing. While if he decides not to take care of the child, nothing is wrong with that, because that's not his son. That's not his strength. Especially if it comes down to, imagine that it says 3 out of the 4 children are not his. You can imagine that that it's the last child that's actually his, or the middle child and not the firstborn. Then when if he should be actually following this law and giving inheritance, right, according to the scriptures, he's gonna give his double portion. He's gonna give most of his resources, and it's time to pass on that inheritance to another man's child. And that's the thing. In Israel, it says that the portion shall not the inheritance shall not travel from tribe to tribe. Or even in the year of Jubilee, if a man should lose his land or whatever, couple years on, like in the year of Jubilee, that certain those things, those fields or whatever the thing is, the debt shall be forgiven, and the lands returned to that particular household, or that group or whatever, well, not group, but that household within Israel, or that tribe. Right, because the tribe shall not the inheritance shall not, or the resources shall not pass from tribe to tribe. So you see, it's a double portion of his portion. It says, because he's the beginning of his strength. If that child that is not is if the child that is his is actually the middle child or the last child, but not the firstborn, that's him losing his inheritance. That's a whole household that's damaged based on this based on this decision. This evil decision. And once again, that is why the penalty for adultery is so severe. It's death. Because it's serious thing. It's a man household, a man lineage, a man legacy. Those are the things that are being affected. These are the things that are coming into play. Not to mention, the sacrifice that one has to make as a parent for a child. It's a serious thing. Right? So with that, let me just end with the final precept. Adulterer, and adulteress. Right, this is Leviticus chapter 20 verse 10. It says, and the man that committed adultery with another man's wife, even he that committed adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. That's the judgment. Alright? Now mind you, we're in Babylon, so not all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. However, if we were in the land, that would be the judgment. Alright? So, with that, hope this was edifying. Once more, to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers in highways and byways pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps. Shalom.